to start the show an hour ago. And now we go to Pat Nunley in Kansas City. Big 12 tournament tips off tonight. West Virginia in Kansas State. The winner will get Kansas. Pat Nunley made the trip up to Kansas City yesterday, and we appreciate his time. So they're there, Pat, and my goodness, how they've turned this thing around the last 2 or 3 weeks with what they've done to reinvent themselves and where they are with momentum. In your opinion, sure they can win it. Do they need to win at least a game, or do they need to win a game or two to secure and keep what appears to be a number one seed?
That's a good question, and I'm not entirely sure. I mean, we're looking at all the bracketology stuff, and it looks like Baylor is a lock for at least a 2 seed, but right now, as it stands, they're a 1. And I think the goal is to get to Fort Worth, because if we get either one of those seeds, we start in Fort Worth and then work our way down, if things go well, to San Antonio and then ultimately New Orleans. That, I think, is a really nice place to be. But also, they've never won the Big 12 tournament championship.
Mm-hmm.
Never done it. Been there 3 times. They're 0-3. So they won the Big 12 championship back-to-back, regular season. They won a national championship. They've never won this tournament. And I think that is a great motivator for them. They're playing well. They want to continue to play well. I think they're the hottest team in the Big 12. They've won 5 in a row. They won 6 of their last 7. And when you're playing well, you want to play. And you mentioned momentum. I think that's the key. You want momentum going in to the NCAA tournament. And I think a nice performance and a championship in the Big 12 tournament does that for them.
And this is different than last year, where they're not exactly on their, on fumes like they were heading into Kansas City last year. This is a team that's playing well, that's really, Pat, coming to its own, and they kind of understand their rotations now. It's kind of fascinating to watch a team go from looking like they didn't know what was going to happen to one in complete control.
Yeah, and I think they're in control. I think it's a really good point, Paul. This is a team that has been really negatively affected by injuries, but Baylor has really good players, and Baylor has really tough matchups on the floor with the guys that they have. It's a 7-man rotation, but it's a really good rotation. And we've seen when this team plays well, they can win a national championship. They absolutely can. I think they understand that. That was a bit of a work in progress to get to the point where they are now. But we're close to being as good as we can get. Now, having said that, you get better every day. You get better every game, and that's the goal. And there's plenty room for improvement. But this is a team that I think has found itself. They're in a groove. They like playing with one another. And the guys that have to play well are playing really well. Akinjo, Flagler, Thamba, the freshmen are coming on. So today, this is a really good team. And you just don't want to stub your toe in this tournament as you move towards the Big 12 tournament championship and then on into the NCAA tournament.
Pat, you talked about the groove that they're in. Just looking at these last couple of weeks, from the Oklahoma State win to then turning around and beating Kansas, then turning around 2 days later, beating Texas, and then a very hard-fought victory over Iowa State. I mean, they needed a little help, obviously. TCU gave them that, but just your thoughts on, what they had to do and them going out and getting the job done.
Yeah, well, everybody has to play it out. And Kansas had to play the full 18-game schedule. We did too. And we did what we had to do to be in position to win a championship. And Kansas lost at TCU. TCU almost got them in Lawrence 2 days later. And Texas took them to overtime. So I think the goal was get in a position, recover enough, find that groove, get in a position to win at least a share of the Big 12 championship. And they did that. And everybody has to play 18 games. And you look over at Kansas' schedule 3 games ago, and you thought, well, they could lose one, and they did. And so the Bears did everything they were supposed to do, had to finish strong against Iowa State, and that was a little dicey, but they did it. And here they are, Big 12 co-champs, back-to-back Big 12 championships. That's a really big deal.
Well, let me tell you what a big deal was Saturday, of course, to get that share of the title with Kansas, to win the championship back-to-back. What was that moment for Pat Nunley when I saw a shadow box presented to you. And what did that mean to you?
Well, I was overwhelmed, to be honest with you. So I'm sitting there next to John, and all of a sudden there's a camera in my face, and I think they're shooting somebody behind me, and John nudges me and says, "Hey, stand up. And by the way, take your headset off, and I'll do anything John asked me to do." I said, "Sure, why? What are we doing? What is this?" And I stand up, and here comes Don with that ring case, and I was absolutely caught off guard and completely overwhelmed because I just didn't expect it. And J-Mo is full of surprises, and that was just another one. He made that happen for me, and I was deeply touched and honored. And again, I just stood there and waved. I really didn't know what else to do, but it was an emotional moment for me, and I sure didn't see it coming.
Have you picked out the spot for it yet?
Oh yeah. Oh, we're working on it as we speak, because for a long time I've had all these great rings going back all these years, and I've got them in my office, but I really don't have a place to display them. And I've been asking John along the way, and do you have a ring case? Where did you get it? And so I know now behind the scenes, he was reaching out to my wife, making sure I had not gotten a ring case yet. And so they had this thing going behind the scenes, and got a place where I can display that and all sorts of other Baylor memorabilia.
Pat Nunley, color analyst for Baylor men's basketball, with us, Sic'Em 365 Radio in Kansas City. It most likely appears as if L.J. Cryer is not going to play this weekend and may not play again. Do you have any new, not information on him, but is that kind of, if he plays, it'll be more of a surprise than if he doesn't?
That's my attitude, David. And that's not based on anything other than my sense of things. And I don't know that they have a better sense than I do, because with LJ, it is, how do you feel? But my thinking on that has been, if he's ready, if he's going to play, he hasn't practiced in a month. If you can't play, you can't practice. He can shoot it. And we would find out whether he's lost that touch. Now, that's all timing, and it's game speed, and all those things really make a difference. But if you haven't practiced in a month, you cannot play at the level that they're going to have to play to be able to make a really good run. So my assumption is, don't count on LJ if you get him. I think you play him sparingly. If you need somebody to spread the floor, and he can absolutely do it because of his range, that's the role I think he's going to play. But to the point we were all talking about earlier, they found their team. They found the rotation. This is a really nice team, and there's some chemistry that's been built. And I think that's something else you got to think about. If you put LJ in there and he's feeling his way around, we're at a stage in the season where you can't feel your way around, and you got to be ready to play as hard as they play to be successful.
Pat, what makes Oklahoma dangerous tomorrow night?
Well, we talk about Baylor being a hot team. They're a hot team. They lost 6 of 7 Big 12 games, right in the middle of the league. Now they've won 3 in a row. And when we played them earlier, we played them twice, they were not deep. Well, they're a little deeper now because they've had to play some guys, and they experienced growing pains in playing guys that may not have been ready to play, and that contributed to losing 6 of 7. Now they've got more contributors. Marvin Johnson had a really good game. I think it was against K-State, maybe West Virginia. So they're a better team. And the goal for a team like that is to be really good in February and really, really good in March. Now, I think they've won 17 games. No, I think they've won 14. They're 14 and 11, something like that. And they're trying to get into the NCAA tournament. And if they won 3 here, won a couple here, beat Baylor Thursday, that's another nice win for them. Their strength of schedule is very good. It's one of the best in the country. So they've got a chance to make a run. I guess short answer to your question is, they are a lot better than they were in each of the 2 times we played them before.
Pat, one more thing about the two freshmen, Jeremy Sohan and Kendall Brown, who have been phenomenal and have really just continued and raised their game when they needed to because of the injuries and attrition. Sometimes you hear about freshmen, by the time at the end of the year, they're basically almost sophomores. Do they play in some cases almost like maybe they're seniors?
Yes, and they can do that, David, because they are so talented. Kendall Brown, again, every time I watch him play, I'm amazed. I am. He is so gifted athletically that watching him do things today that he wasn't doing when the season started and even early into Big 12 play, there's such a wow factor to him. If you watch him lately, and this is coaching, I mean, they've told him when you get the ball on a break, you get a rebound and you've got a head of steam, you go. And several times, even against Iowa State, he was a one-man fast break. But it takes more than one to stop him when he's got the ball in the middle of the floor on a fast break, because his ability to finish at the rim is stunning. And he's going to get better and better and better. It's really kind of scary to think about his upside. Sohan has been terrific, just terrific. And even when he's not scoring big like against Texas, in that game, Baylor had 5 stops in a row at the end of that game. And I think during those stops, Sohan had a steal, he had a couple of blocks, he had 2 or 3 defensive rebounds. So those guys are big-time players, and they're starting to play like they're comfortable. And I think really nice way to put it, you know, when you come into this in the situation Baylor's in now and is about to be, you've got to get really comfortable in really uncomfortable situations. That's what makes Akinjo so good. That's why Flagler is able to take and make big shots. I think those guys are now thriving in situations that are not comfortable. And when they make that move, and you've got now 5 guys who can do that, this is an interesting team. And I think its upside is really high.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it. Enjoy Kansas City. I hope you're there for the weekend the entire time. Thanks for your time, Pat Nunley, with us. And he was honored in that game Saturday against Kansas with that shadow box with all the rings and memorabilia and all the memories of being a part of Baylor men's basketball as a player. And for, 41 years now? Is that right? Been part of Baylor basketball for 41 years and also the color analyst for quite some time with John Morris as well. All right, when we come back, we'll have LeGarrette